Hello, class. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the credit crisis that you've been reading about in the news. Your teacher asked me to film a short piece on it. The credit crisis, to discuss the origins of it a little bit, credit in the modern economy is a little bit like oxygen. The economy cannot do without it. The longer that the economy lacks credit, the sicker it gets until eventually it reaches a point where they can't recover. You realize that credit is important when you see consumers using credit cards to purchase goods. Companies also rely on credit to fund their daily activities, and when they can't have this, they can't expand their businesses and the economy suffers. What's happened recently is that home prices in the United States began to decline sharply. That, for reasons that we don't have time to go into, led to declines in many kinds of securities in the United States. As these securities fell in price, banks began to suffer large losses. This caused fear among market participants and other traders that the banks would not be able to continue doing business as they had. Eventually, this fear, following the collapse of Lehman Brothers, a big investment bank in America, turned into outright panic, where people were afraid to trade almost any kind of security. Because of this, companies, individuals, and other borrowers were not able to get any kind of credit. This has caused the real economy to suffer. And economists generally differentiate between the financial economy, which is the financial markets that you hear about, and the real economy, which is the everyday stuff that you and I do, purchasing goods, buying a new car, the government spending money, and that sort of thing. As the real economy began to suffer, it's rolled over and become the most serious economic crisis since the Great Depression. And there's been talk in the press that perhaps this will turn into another Great Depression. And for a number of reasons, I don't think that that's likely. I think that everything needs to be kept in perspective. And while things are very difficult right now, the government is taking steps, governments around the world are taking steps to mitigate the crisis and to try to keep things from getting worse. And while these haven't been entirely successful, they are more effective than what governments did back in the 1930s. How will this affect you going forward? Well, it's difficult to say without knowing exactly where the crisis is going to lead us, but the danger of a complete financial collapse does seem to have passed for the moment, and the danger now is how bad the economy will get. There are three possible scenarios that seem likely. One, as I said, is a Great Depression type scenario, and I don't think that that's likely. The other is a very slow economic recovery, and I think perhaps that's the most likely path, as consumers that's lived beyond their means for too long now have to save a little bit more money so that they can repair their finances. Nobody, whether an individual or a country, can live beyond their means indefinitely. The final possibility is an inflationary scenario. Inflation is when prices on goods rise very rapidly. In some ways, that would not be a bad thing for those of you in Brazil, because Brazil has a lot of raw materials and in some ways benefits from inflation, although not extreme inflation. Two other interesting things to keep an eye on as you go forward and you move on in your lives and your careers is that this crisis that's happening seems likely to exacerbate and to contribute to the rise of the emerging markets, which have been doing very well for the years in the recent years and seem likely to continue to do so. This may continue to shift power from Europe and America towards the developing world. And finally, more government control. In different countries, capitalism, some countries' markets seem to rule the economy, like in America. In other ones, such as parts of Europe, the government is more involved, and that seems likely to occur around the world now as governments become more involved in the financial sector and in the regular economy. I hope that this was helpful and that you continue to study hard, and good luck.